But we got a great show tonight. We have a new segment tonight, Robert. These are futuristic movies that are now in the past. So how does this work?
Well, obviously, there's been actually, I was thinking about this before, and then once we hit 2022, there's been a lot of articles about Soylent Green,
Mhm.
which is supposed to take place in 2022, our current year. So, and there's always kind of like, oh, compare, what's it really like versus what they saw in the movie, or did they get it right? What they get right, what they get wrong. Um, People did this a lot with Blade Runner, um,
Yeah.
saying, where's Pan Am now?
Right.
Did it make a resurgence that we missed?
The Soylent Green references are cool too because I shared the article with you recently at the New York Times did that says like they got a lot of it right.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a lot that's amplified. That's not realistic, but as far as overpopulation, food shortages, inflation prices, climate
Climate.
change, it's
Yeah.
it's bad.
I kind of feel like the 70s, people in the 70s were more aware of the climate change or shouting about it more than we are now. But
It's true. Yeah. Even RFK, Robert Kennedy in the 60s was saying we might have to wear, oxygen masks in 30 years in New York because the pollution's so
mhm,
bad.
yeah,
Obviously they did a lot of things to cut that, but they were
correct.
they were kind of woke on that.
Yeah, yeah. And LA, if LA kept going on as is, they obviously did a lot to try to clean up their air over the past couple of decades. But yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But this is a cool segment. So let's kick it off. Soylent Green. So the movie is we're going to tell you the movie, the period that the film took in, that it took place in. I mean, in the film, and then the release date.
So
So is that right?
correct, yeah. So Soylent Green is supposed to take place in 2022, our current year, and it was actually released in 1973. So quite a few decades gap I thought they did a decent amount of kind of guesstimating what was going to be like that
I do too.
cesspool of New York.
Yeah, yeah. I think they did. I think they did a good job. I also think that they nailed it with um, kind of the culture of the big corporations of kind of how they are today. Like everything's fine. We got this like lap of luxury lifestyle for you. Just come on in, and it's all good. Don't worry about where it comes from. Like we got you. Kind of like Monsanto and all that stuff.
Don't worry about it. So they definitely did a good job predicting the gap of the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer,
Oh yeah,
and just how they kind of thrive on that. And we're all consumers, and like as
sure.
they release Soylent Yellow, and everybody wants that, and then they release Soylent,
Yeah, Soylent Green was the big deal.
yeah,
Spoiler
people
alert,
like
if you haven't seen it, the eponymous line is Soylent Green is people. You're actually eating people. What did
which
they did you ever see Omega Man with Charlton Heston?
I think so. And this is where sometimes I used to confuse these two films because it was
Hmm.
a little similar, both future and both kind of lone man. Obviously, Omega was very much lone man, but kind of on his own and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought it was. I guess both Silent Green isn't a fantastic film by any means. I mean,
No,
as a
no.
film, it's okay. But people still talk about it. I think one because of that the line and the premise, and then two, obviously, we're talking about it right now because of the current year.
Yeah, yeah. And I brought up Omega Man because I feel like they go hand in hand, kind of with the futuristic lone man, like you said. And I feel like they did a good job too with
Yeah,
Greed. But yeah, Soylent Green's a good one. Next on the list is Purge.
more
Um,
a more recent film, but
yeah, but still, the release year was 2013, and it took place as 2022 in the film.
yeah.
And I
So
think they did a good job of lining it up of what it looks like today.
we could still it could still happen. You know,
Right. Well, it's happening Saturday.
we have
I
a
just
whole
saw the
year
news.
to get
Right.
ready get ready for the purge,
The Purge. What do you think
which,
about that?
which means the other purge films are way into the future.
I know, right?
Now that
The sixth installment's in like
yeah,
2050.
yeah. Friday the 13th used to do that. We were like, well, what year is this supposed to be?
I know the
Um,
the chronology of it.
yeah, where like Jason Takes Manhattan is supposed to take place in like 1996 or something. And it's like,
Right.
but yeah, so yeah, they for Purge One, I guess we could talk about that. Seemed they did a decent job, and it wasn't too out there. We're going to be talking about a couple other films that took a less than a decade, saying just kind of a little bit of a guess ahead, so people weren't acting, they weren't in flying cars or anything.
No, and Back to the Future, obviously the big joke was where are the flying cars? And then they retrocon kind of uh the timeline where they made it so well the cars were nuclear active or radiation, so they would blow up. So that's why they took them away. You're like,
Yes.
oh,
Oh,
then you kind
okay.
of made it. So now, so 30 years later, you just discovered that. Thanks. But yeah, I think the Purge did a good job.
Yeah.
Fairly.
Fairly okay. So,
Um,
uh,
what's number three?
The Island.
Oh, Ewan McGregor's finest role. I'm a fan of
I
The Island, man. Not
I
gonna
love
lie.
the Island. I remember. So this is a 2005 film, and it was one of the. It's one of those films I should not like at all. It's really just kind of not anti me, but I ended up loving it. I know we talked about it on our podcast before, but so it was released in 2005 and was supposed to take place in that far off time of 2019.
Yikes. The time far, far away.
Now we
I'm
do look
surprised you like
back
The
at.
Island.
I do, I do, but now we do actually do look back at 2019 fondly as
Oh yeah, it was the golden year.
oh, what a great time 2019 was.
God, it's so good. It's true.
But yeah, and there's pieces I was thinking because I know they kind of have a not quite a bullet train that kind of hovers, and obviously we don't have that, but I think it's kind of we're converging on some of those high speed magnetic trains and so forth.
Yeah, that's what we need, more of those. Bullet trains.
Yes.
But it's good. It's a good flick.
Yeah.
Equilibrium's good too. Have you ever seen that?
Uh, is that the Matt Damon one, or is that the which one is that?
It's
I don't
Christian
remember.
Bale.
No.
It's not really that great, but it's
No.
kind of like this.
Gotcha.
I have to look at the year. It might have fit this list, but it's similar to The Island in that sense.
Gotcha.
But it's worth watching for Christian Bale. He has a technique of fighting called, excuse me, gun kata, where if you shoot him with a bunch of guns, he knows the trajectory to like move just in time. So there's like 30 guys shooting him with bullets, and he's like everyone, and then he shoots them back using like karate gun kata. It's ridiculous.
Gotcha.
I'll send
All
it to you. We can watch it together.
I'll keep a lookout for that.
Okay, so next on the list is Blade Runner. I feel like this is the quintessential, not so distant in the future movie from the 80s.
Yeah, so it was, and this came up a couple years ago, obviously. So it is supposed to take place in 2019, and is a 1982 movie. Obviously, the flying cars we do not have. We do have the incessant advertising and Times
Nailed it.
Square. Yeah, Times Square pretty much looks like Blade Runner world as it is. They also have obviously some climate issues. They kind of have almost the opposite, where it is constantly raining.
Right.
In Los Angeles, but
they have hot dog vendor stands, so it's
yeah,
fine.
we're still eating outside, eating
We're
crappy
still eating
food.
like slobs, you know.
But yeah, but same thing. And speaking, I did not put on the list obviously because it hasn't happened yet. But I did like Blade Runner 2049 quite a bit.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I like Blade Runner the original. I saw the director's cut, so it was like kind of long. But I didn't. I can never watch it again. I don't know why. I think like once was enough for me.
yeah, it's a sleepy movie.
Yeah, I'm not rushing to
Okay,
see it.
yeah. So,
But I will see House Bunny.
well, of course, that's
I mean, you got to do that.
modern classic.
What's the next one on the list?
Terminator Salvation.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Christian Bale,
Speaking of diminishing returns,
is this the movie where Christian Bale? It's where he had his meltdown, right?
yes, yeah. So,
Uncomfortable.
and it's people always have these meltdowns on these kind of crappy movies. Like, oh, I wish it was a better movie because then there would be, like, really, what that scene? That was the scene you were worried about. That
Right. This sets you off.
to get it right.
I know. That's so true. That's so true.
But ignoring that it's a crappy movie, this got it obviously, and Terminators are in their own obviously multiverse of who knows what's going on. But this one is probably the farthest from actuality.
Yeah, 100%. Gets ridiculous too with like the water scenes, where they're like waiting in the water, and it's just like, what do you? And there's like water Terminators in there, and you're like, come on, guys, come on.
Did they have dog Terminators yet? I can't remember if they
Yeah, I think they
went
did.
down
They
that
had
road.
something.
I know they had Predator dogs, but I was like, oh, I wonder if they went down that road. But in a huge robot, yeah, it was like all these things. I'm like, well,
It's a
I don't
lot.
know. They moved so far from Cameron's vision that it was kind of sad.
Yeah, yeah, it was. They definitely diluted the brand.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, that was probably the farthest removed. Running Man is 2017. It was the period. In 1987, this film released. Robert, I don't know if this is a good movie or a bad movie, but I like it, and I like the book even more. So I'm a fan, and I think it was ridiculous the future they predicted in this movie. So I'm just gonna say that it's like ridiculous. There's cops everywhere. It's just insane.
Well, it's a little ridiculous, but we're obviously TV. We're not in the game shows like we thought we would be in 2017.
No, no, but
But
you
we,
could argue the reality TV.
oh, absolutely,
You
yeah,
know,
it was all reality, and obviously it was made up reality TV, which they um,
yeah,
had already been, they this kind of forced made up reality that they put on us. So, but yeah, and I think they're remaking this, so I'll be curious to kind of see what they do next. Now, the book, or I think it was kind of a novella, was a little bit different. I think once Schwarzenegger got on board, then it became a
it was a
different
whole
type
thing.
of, yeah, because I think he was supposed to be kind of everyday Joe put into this, and no matter what you did to Arnold, that's
He's not the everyday Joe.
not the case. But
It was a novella. You're right, and
yeah,
I feel like the book usually is the better than the film. Rare cases is the film better. Jaws, excuse me. Awful book, but Running Man is very dark, and
yeah,
I mean the film's dark, but in the book it really gets out there with the plane crash and everything. Like they didn't really do that in the movie, which worked for what it was. It's
yeah.
Schwarzenegger 1987, so
I'm trying to remember how much, because it's always, obviously we always go look at the prices and stuff like that. Because I remember uh, she's in the studio and she's trying to buy a soda or coffee or something like it. Like, and it's like literally, it's like $6 for a soda. Like at the time, you're just like, oh my god, and like, well, it's like, yeah,
yeah, yeah, it makes
if
sense.
if you're at an arena,
Six
it's
bucks.
probably more than that. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely more than that.
yeah.
Yeah, it worked for that reason. They got
Um,
that down right.
yeah, price is down, right? So, but and then I always look at the technology because she's kind of flipping through some discs, not discs, but kind of like cartridges and stuff for footage and stuff. Thankfully, it's all labeled nicely for like,
It's very tied up and buttoned up for her.
yeah, she's like, oh, this will be helpful later.
I do like seeing old technology that was new at the time in films, like in Batman Returns when he has like the CD and he puts it in the car, like that's like the data disc, and you're like, oh, it's a Batmobile though.
Well, that generation's still using it.
Speaking of which,
Ooh.
Robert got an amazing gift this week. You purchased, made it. We got a purchase, right?
Oh yeah, I did purchase. But it was a surprise because I purchased it 6 months ago or so, and then it actually came. I was like, oh, what is this?
Did you
What a
really?
surprise! Well, it was a while, so yeah,
Yeah,
maybe not that long, but
but a long time.
yeah.
But you got these like Batman, the original TV show
Yeah, these
figurines.
kind of Batman figures and the Batmobile and
So
stuff like that.
cool.
So I think I figure out if I'm going to display it somehow. But
The original Batmobile, I still think is really cool.
oh yeah,
It's like the Green Hornets car. It's like the classic modified kind of car. It's cool.
and for viewers, the entire Batman TV series is on Tubi now, so you can watch it at your leisure.
I do like Tubi. I
Yeah.
don't like that I can't pause it and come back and I lose my spot.
Oh, yeah.
It's buggy on my end, but I do like Tubi. It's got like cool streaming stuff right up front.
Yeah, kind of stuff that either forgot about or will never show up on Netflix.
Right.
You know,
We'll never, yeah, it'll never be streaming.
yeah.
There.
And there's a lot of movies. I'm like, I can't even believe these movies exist. You can just tell by their cover how bad they are.
Oh yeah, no, most of them are like that.
Yeah.
It's like the wishes of darkness, and you're like, oh, what
Ugh.
is this?
You can tell how bad it is. Like it's an amazing amount of money spent on these bad movies because you flip through them. I'm like, who paid for all these?
Oh yeah, yeah, they're
Crazy.
all independent films that
Yeah.
probably cost anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million, and you're like, this is
Yeah.
someone got this done. Wow.
That made $0 back.
Oh yeah, yeah. And what's next, Robert? This is the quintessential futuristic movie.
Back to the Future Part 2, which we talked about a little bit. So it's supposed to take place in 2015. released in 89. So what is that, about 25 plus years?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And when 2015 passed, there were a lot of memes, as you remember. That was like October or whatever the date was. This was the
Yeah.
date, and the Cubs went because the Cubs did win the World Series that year, or they went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So there was like all these like crazy things that were happening, coincidences.
And if we talk about what we've been watching, maybe we'll do that in the podcast, because I was like, I'm pretty sure the latest episode of Book of Boba Fett was paying honor to Back to the Future Part 2 in this past episode.
Oh, that I'm sorry to skip over I haven't seen the latest episode yet.
Well, then
My fault.
Then I spoiled the entire thing.
Evil dies tonight.
We'll talk about that as well. But no, it's not spoiling it, but it's like, oh, when you see it, you're like, this is very Back to the Future Part 2.
I'm gonna probably watch it tonight.
And I was almost thinking, because when you mentioned water, I'm like, oh yeah, there's this water that gets spilled at one point. I'm thinking like, hovercrafts can't go, whatever the line is.
Water.
Yeah.
Drying clothes now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're missing all those things. Our self-tying shoes are not here. Which kind of seems silly at the time. Like, well, that's ridiculous. Now that I'm over 50, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, let's get that done.
I can't be just bending over trying to tie my own shoes.
Yeah. Come on. Where is this?
Yeah. So not much got right on that one. Not the fashion. We do have some nostalgia for the 80s, but I think we were kind of past that by 2015.
Yeah, I agree. There's no 80s cafes around it.
At Cafe 80s, yeah.
Yeah. You mean you have to use your hands?
Hands? Was that Elijah Wood?
Yep. The great Elijah, the young Elijah Wood.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. But yeah, so not too accurate with the future there. Next is Escape from LA, which was supposed to take place in 2013. The film came out in 96. And this is a really bad movie, but it is a guilty pleasure of mine. Call Me Snake.
It's such a hard watch. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Yeah.
There's almost Disneyland in there because they can't use the rights and say Disneyland.
Yeah, there's pieces. I was like, ooh, I can't. Yes, and I can't remember when the earthquake is supposed to take place in this movie. Obviously, it's a couple years before 2013, I think. The big one, which separates, kind of makes LA or proper kind of an island and so forth. So
and the CGI shark.
That's why I was like, and why is it moving? Obviously, they're going through Universal Studios, and I'm sure LA people like myself are like, wait, is that the right geography? Is he leaving Burbank? Where'd he come from?
Right. It's not the right geography because when they're passing Disneyland, which is deep in Orange County, then the next thing you know, they're like in Hollywood. It's like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah. So despite the horrible 32 megabyte graphics, I'm like, that's not realistic.
That's not right. Also, what's up with the president's security detail, the Secret Service, and all these movies? Like the daughter gets kidnapped, and then the president gets kidnapped. Like, what are they doing in the future?
Maybe they did get that right because she's a little Ivanka,
They did nail down the kind of the president's in control now. Fully. Yeah. He moved his capital to not Mar-a-Lago, but Lynchburg, Virginia, where his home was. It was. They were good with that.
I got pieces right, and they still had the discs with that. Did they put a little red dot? I'm like, this will fool them all.
I never understood though when they give him the chip, the injection to monitor him. That they said that headache's going to keep getting worse. Not really the best thing to do to someone pivoting on saving the day. Is the headache's going to get worse every hour. Usually that makes things get muddy.
And now that I think about it. Obviously, because I think we're going to talk about Escape from New York, but But yeah, isn't he wearing the same clothes? It's getting a little stinky.
Yeah, it's the same leather motif.
Yeah, and they do put him into. I think he's wearing the same things, and then they put him into leather pants. But same thing. Is that the right type of leather pants? The things that you want to be wearing when you're running around, surfing.
The surfing scene is the best. So bad. But yeah, they kind of got it right with the Hollywood as far as like the landscape goes. I don't know why, if it's such a large part that remained, you wouldn't just rebuild there rather than make it a prison. Because They weren't really doing hard time, on the island.
Especially because it's LA, like they're like,
Right.
no, they would capitalize on that. That'd be like Catalina Island too.
It's a den of sin there, Robert.
Oh, yeah. Well, Vegas too.
Of course. Of course. What do we have next on the list?
Also supposedly taking place in 2013 is Demolition Man.
Oh, how do you know the word? Teddy bear. Teddy bear? That's the password? Teddy bear? Okay.
So
Great
it was
movie, Robert.
this is supposed to be San Angeles.
Yeah, San
I
Angeles.
think same thing. Wasn't there another quake or something? And then they combined, or I can't remember. Now they
Yeah,
expanded.
there was a quake and they merged the metropolitan areas.
Yeah. So
And they were taught to be well.
yeah.
with it.
So this feels more likely, obviously, than Escape from LA. So high amount of mindfulness. We just walk around mostly wearing smocks and
Yeah.
ineffective police. Seems legitimate to me.
Nailed it. What is your boggle, sir? My boggle. I do like Dennis Leary a lot in this. He's actually one of my favorite comedians, and I think he's Dennis Leary at his best. The quick
Yeah.
banty, yeah, you know what, man, this is what we're gonna do. Like the political Dennis Leary.
They knew how to use
the
them.
90s.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Cool.
I still say, now all restaurants are Taco Bell.
All restaurants.
Ever since the franchise war.
Now ever since the franchise war, all restaurants are Godfather's Pizza.
Ooh. And so they could do it in different states. They could alter it.
Oh yeah.
Whatever it happens to be.
Rat. It's a rat burger. Do you see any cows around, John Spartan? It's the best burger I ever had. But I agree. They got it. I feel like they got it pretty close with the inept police and things like that.
In a nice way. And
in a nice way. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Not a generalization for all law enforcement, but for some.
We're not cryo freezing prisoners, but
right. Not yet.
Yeah.
And next is if you want to see LA get taken out by some wacky disasters right off the bat, 2012. We talked about this recently.
Yeah. So obviously, and it's supposed to take place in 2012, and it was made all the way back in 2009. So they were just looking a couple of years ahead.
Right. They did nail the corporate greed.
Yeah. And maybe there are arcs ready to go. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Somewhere, but invest in heavy-duty limousines, I guess.
Yeah. Get those giraffes airlifted.
Get those out of LA. So obviously we're talking about tsunamis today. I'm like, well, here it is.
Here it is. What was the disaster that hit LA? Was it tsunamis?
I think that an earthquake. For some reason, I remember a big. I thought this was one with a big wave, and then it's one of those things. The limousine or the plane is always just ahead of the cracks in the streets, kind of. And I think LA kind of fell off for the most part, similar to Escape from LA, except I think it was all gone. So that's
right. That was this movie. The plane wheels just get off the tarmac,
just in time. Yeah. And Woody Harrelson up on a hill, which is true.
Right. Yeah.
That will. Yeah.
He's in those Hawaii mountains doing his thing. So it's not incorrect.
No, but if we got to that point, it was like, oh, that's probably a decent look at what the future could have been looking like.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I feel like they did a good job for what they were working with. And next is 2010, the film, which took place in 2010, and it was released in 1984.
So I saw this in the theater.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
cool. I remember there's a shot where Roy Scheider's on the beach with a laptop, and I don't think it's plugged in or anything, but I remember at the time it's like, well, how does that even work? If it's not plugged in, how does a computer plug in anywhere? And this is pre modem. I mean, it was barely, how is it working and everything. So I remember that. I remember I wonder if that will come true someday. Obviously, it more than did.
Right.
On how we're kind of running around and so forth. But I remember that in particular. So, and they also have, I'm sure this exists, where they have a pool that's outside pool, but there's dolphins in it.
I don't remember that. I gotta rewatch it.
Yeah, so it's kind of a strange thing. I was like, well, I guess
that is strange. I do like the laptop reference too. How's this connected?
I don't know. So I do remember that. Yeah, for some reason that I remember that stuck out at the time. It's like, He's because he's getting ready to. I think he's looking up stuff and or whatever, but he just happens to be on the beach with a laptop. So,
I thought
and
that
by
way with
laptop, I mean it's like it's a chunky laptop.
yeah, it's like a talking whiz kid toy.
Yeah.
I thought that way with Independence Day in the final, scenes where they're in the spaceship and like Jeff Goldblum's on the computer. It's like, how is he uploading that virus? There's no like Wi-Fi then, and
Yeah.
I'm sure not one's compatible in the craft.
No, if Androids and Macs can't talk to each other, then or
Then
Apple, then
what's happening exactly? But yeah,
but
I haven't seen
so good.
2010 in a while.
Yeah, so I think they did a decent job. Space wise, obviously, we're not quite at that place, sending people off to Jupiter, but
Right,
getting closer.
getting closer. Yeah, trying to. I thought that was a cool plot though.
Yeah.
Jupiter. I had high hopes for Ad Astra too, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that and being kind of a non-exciting film.
kind of a snooze.
Yeah.
What do we have next?
Well, I say the prequel to this because it's not really a prequel, but the original 2001, The Space Odyssey.
Right. You could say the same thing. This came out in '68.
Yes.
68.
And is supposed to obviously take place in 2001.
Nailed it.
Everything exactly happened by 2001. That's exactly where we were at.
That's exactly what went down.
We have our moon base. We have Pan Am flights to the moon.
Right. Nailed it. And 2001 was going to be the last Kubrick film, but he died before that. He was going to direct Artificial Intelligence. And
Well, he
he
directed movies since 2001, obviously.
Since?
After 2001.
Stanley Kubrick?
Are you talking about after 2001, the movie, or?
No, after the year.
Oh, after the year. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like in the year 2001 in real life.
Gotcha.
He was going to direct Artificial Intelligence, but he got too sick, and then Spielberg did it. But there's like some parallels between that and there. So you wonder if that would have been his last film.
Based on how it turned out, yeah. No matter what, it would have been his last film.
But 2001's cool. To me, it's a film school movie. I don't really go to watch it. I don't know anyone that really like watches it, but you should absolutely watch it. It's a brilliant film, film itself, technique.
Yeah. I was never a super fan, but I think back for some reason my first two Blu-rays I bought were 2001 and The Shining. So obviously I don't know.
Oh, cool.
In my mind, I was kind of thinking something, but it's one of those. Yeah, I don't revisit too often.
No,
but
you will be visiting Dick Tracy, I would hope, soon.
I have it right. I have it out. Still in the shrink wrap.
I was looking up Dick Tracy on Amazon, and I was like, I met Texas Robert. I was like, hey, it's like $50, and he sent me a picture of it. I was like, you own it, and it's still like perfectly sealed up.
I want to keep it pristine.
How do you not watch it knowing Madonna gives the performance of a lifetime in it?
I watched it once, like 5 years ago.
Oh.
So there you go.
I don't think you'll like it, to be honest with you.
It was fine. I was like, I think it was better than I thought. But,
okay. There's promise.
Yeah.
All right. I'm really holding on to hope for this.
All right.
Do you watch 2001? You don't really like, this isn't one of your faves?
No, I never, when I think about like, I'm like, what's my top 20? I don't put it up there. But like I said, it was one of the first Blu-rays I bought. So somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking it's
important.
Something I needed to have. Yeah.
Okay. 2001, Space Odyssey. After this is 12 Monkeys. 1997 is the period it takes place in during a virus. And 1995 is the year it came out.
Yeah. So obviously in the movie, they go farther ahead, but there's a little bit of, I don't know if I call it time travel, but the main part of the movie. And so good old Philadelphia.
Yep. Yeah. They filmed at Graterford Prison, I think.
Gotcha.
Which is like a famous haunted prison there. So they got some good, cool exteriors.
Yeah.
In the film.
And because it was just a little bit ahead, obviously they didn't really have to do too much. The gap was not that big.
Yeah.
So
it worked. It's a good movie. I enjoy it. I'll watch it if it's on.
Yeah. I never did watch the series, but
no. But yeah, it still holds up. It's still
Yeah.
fun.
Yep. Yep.
What's next?
Another a prequel to a movie we just talked about. It's not a prequel, but Escape from New York.
The name Snake. This has this is a good movie. John Carpenter's one of his best movies. Don't
Oh
you
yeah.
think?
Oh yeah.
Classic.
I love Adrian Barbeau in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is obviously Carpenter at his prime. So film was shot in 1981, supposed to take place way off in 1997.
Right. Right. And the iconic artwork of this movie is the Statue of Liberty's face. Where did they actually film this movie though?
It's mostly St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay.
And then a lot of kind of the streets and so forth are St. Louis, and a decent amount, obviously, in LA at the different, what's the dam out there? Not too far from you. When the helicopter lands at supposed to be Ellis Island, and they kind of
Sepulveda Dam.
Yeah. And then they kind of do a wipe, edit in camera over to actual Ellis Island, where they're supposed to be at the Statue of Liberty.
Liberty Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry. But yeah, so I don't really think they shot anything in New York.
I don't think so.
But, yeah.
And the actor that plays the cab driver, he won the Oscar for Marty. I forget his name, but he does a great job. It's got like some good comic relief.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's scary enough, and then it's worlds apart from Escape from LA.
It is funny. It has the same premise of like probably the most expensive land in the United States, but they really say, well, or prison.
Right. I was watching something the other day. I got to tell you before I forget. I forget what it was. I think it was Better Call Saul, but they were talking about a lawyer was saying, things aren't always what they seem. They're not a safe bet, like gambling and Corky Romano. And I'm like, whoa, that's a deep cut reference right there. And they go, Corky Romano, it was all there in the script to look good, but what do you get? And I was like, wow, that's a deep cut.
Who's still talking about that?
Right. Anyway, but yeah, Escape from New York, fine film, and I buy it. I buy the New York prison in this.
Yeah, and technology wise, yeah, they probably got it. They weren't too far ahead. They weren't overdoing it or anything. And actually, the technology they probably got, because there is a cell satellite phone that's about a foot tall.
Yeah, right.
So that they probably did not get right. But
no, yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
Next up, we have, what do we got, Robert?
Predator 2.
Yes.
Takes place in 1997, was made way back in 1990. So they were doing this is kind of a strange one. I'm not quite sure why they went a 7-year ahead.
I know.
It's like, because there's nothing in the film that says like, oh, now we have this.
Good point.
Everything is exactly the same.
Yeah, there was no reason to do that. I don't know why.
I think they wanted to make LA worse or something like that. And for some reason they said, oh, and in 7 years, this is what it'll be like. But they could have, I don't know.
Nailed it with the heat wave. I watched this recently when the anniversary happened. I messaged you about it, and I felt like it got better with age.
It has. I think it got more respect. I think at the time people were like, it's kind of knockoff sequel, but and especially with the ones that came after, were like masterpiece now.
Oh, compared to those,
we didn't know. Yeah,
it's a Citizen Kane compared to like the Adrian Brody one.
Yeah, before Predator Dogs came into the picture.
But but it's good though. They nailed like the heat wave, and I think it's a great cast. Bill Paxton. I mean, it's all the chemistry's there.
The subway was working.
Subway was working. They did. I think they did good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
And Terminator 2, the period in the film was 1995, and the year that it was released was 1991.
Yeah. So I think they kind of had to do this because obviously original Terminator took place in 1984, and it just seems like there's nothing in it that doesn't make you think it's any earlier. So when they try to age up Edward Furlong, obviously they can't pretend that it's just like he's not gonna, a 7-year-old's not gonna work.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah. Is he supposed to be 11 or so in the movie then? I guess, but
he might have even been like 13.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking. That's
Yeah.
a little bit of stretch. They probably, but so obviously, yeah, not a lot of technology advancement, but this
No.
is just they needed to move it up.
Yeah, they had to move it forward.
Yep.
I agree with you. Next is
Alien Nations. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one. So it also became a TV series, but this is where aliens come to Earth and um, they kind of seek Earth as kind of a refuge. And so it moves up a couple years. So I think it was supposed the aliens supposed to come around 88. And so the movie goes up to 1991 to show how they've already integrated into our population.
oh, that's pretty cool.
James Caan. Yep.
James Caan's in it.
Oh, yeah.
The legendary
As
James Caan.
James Caan. Yep.
As playing James Caan.
Yes, pretty bad. So
I don't know if I've seen it. How does it hold up?
it's okay. I think I want to say, did James Cameron write it? Maybe I can't remember.
All the pieces are there.
Yeah, I thought he was part of it somehow. So Mandy Patinkin's in it. Terrence Stamp
Oh, nice.
as Zod.
What, really?
No,
I
well,
was gonna say, who got the rights
that
to
would be
that?
perfect. Yeah.
Is it better than V, the TV show V?
Um.
Because that was a fun show.
So V, the miniseries was really good. V, the final battle was like, and then V, the TV
Miniseries.
series was not good. It was,
I mean, V, the miniseries, like the
Yeah.
original one.
yeah. So, yeah, this is a little bit different. This is kind of a police, kind of procedural type thing, and then,
Okay.
but yeah, so it might be worth a watch. But yeah, they just skipped ahead a couple of years because they wanted to say, they didn't want to say, oh, aliens came in 1986, and people are like, that's ridiculous.
That's absurd.
I was around in 86, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, always put it ahead in a few years till you
Yeah.
recoup your money and then you won't care.
Yeah.
You know. What's the final one, Seth?
I put Westworld, the movie. So, written, directed by Michael Crichton, was released in 1973, and at the time was supposed to take place in 1983.
Right. This is Yul Brynner's one of his better roles, I think.
Yeah, or probably better known roles. So James Brolin was in this. So I think it made a decent amount of money at the time, and
Yeah.
and obviously his premises they have a couple different worlds, and one of them being Westworld, where robots you're interacting with robots, and you can
Right.
relive the Western days, and you can shoot them, but they can't hurt you, or
Right, yeah.
can they?
What's going to happen?
Mhm.
And this was this precluded Jurassic Park. You can see where Michael Crichton got the idea. And in typical 70s fashion, I do like when they show Roman World and Samurai World in here in the quick cutaways, how they do like the music note and then they super zoom into like somebody's face, like looking right or left, like a cartoon. So it has a great 70s feel to it. I'm a big fan of the movie. I think it's good. And as far as the future, they did a good job with
Yeah.
that world. But the sequels, on the other hand,
Oh.
yikes.
So what was it? Future World was the first sequel, and that was it has the worst sin. It was boring,
Boring. Right. They could have done so much with that sort of franchise.
Yeah. And then was it called Beyond Westworld?
Yeah.
Was a short-lived TV series. I think there's only like 5 or 6 episodes, which I did sit through because I don't know.
Oh, you actually watched it?
I did actually. I actually started visiting
trooper.
visiting locations for it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I had in my head, but
No.
and then of course Westworld, the TV's new television series on HBO. New meaning it's been out a couple seasons now, but
Yeah.
I remember I was in Santa Clarita and obviously in LA, and you see the yellow signs with arrows, and it says, usually if it's they don't put the actual movie title, they have some type of code name.
Right.
So
yeah.
if it's what was the impeachment, their code name was Oval. And so like, yeah,
Right.
and sometimes you can kind of figure it out. So, but I remember I was in Santa Clarita, I was driving, and it said Delos, and I'm like, oh, that's Westworld.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I
you
knew
can
I
see
knew
that.
exactly what that was. And this was like, I think they were a little bit delayed. This was a couple years before it even came out. So I was trying to figure out where they were shooting, but I think they were actually shooting at the Melody Ranch, is probably what I saw signs for.
We've spoken about that, and I think that's where they shot it because the church and stuff like that.
Yep, that and Paramount Ranch. Yeah, cool.
Paramount
And
Ranch.
I think they shot it Utah and several other places, obviously too. Now that I can't even know what year that's supposed to take place, but obviously way in the future.
Yeah, no, right. And they changed the title too when they ship movies a lot of times to the theaters. They'll give it like code names, that so people don't like try to steal it or copy the movies before bootleg them out.
Yeah,
So I always like code names. I know Shyamalan does like initials, like for the happening, it'll be like TH this way. But being that it's the only movie in Hollywood probably being filmed in Pennsylvania that year, you can just say like Shyamalan's filming here. There's nothing, nope, there's no other
correct.
sets in
Yeah,
the state.
yeah. And usually there's articles like M Night shooting in Philadelphia in 2 weeks, and you're like, ooh,
Oh, when I lived there and
yeah.
they were doing signs every day, it was like Joaquin Phoenix seen at Starbucks, you know? But yeah, Westworld I just started watching again. I never finished season 3, and
Oof.
there's too many layers. It's
Yeah,
too
season
ridiculous
one
with
I
the
thought
Nazis and stuff.
I love season 1. Season 2, I'm like,
Great.
all right. Season 3, I was like, I don't like where this is going. And then
Right.
Westworld ruined one of my trips because when I finally got to the Melody Ranch,
Really?
they were taking over Western Street again. So I couldn't even take pictures because they weren't even filming or anything.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they were just getting ready to. And they take over that studio for like 6 months, I think. So
Yeah, they have to clean up and own it.
yeah. So, but they shoot actually a lot at that studio. So there are some actual studio stages in there too. So
Yeah.
they use 100% of that studio over there.
They maximize their time.
They do.
Season 3, I turned off after the first episode. I was like, this sucks. I loved season 1. So much promise. Season 2, too many layers, but I get
Yeah.
they want to branch. But season 3, it felt like CSI or something.
Yeah. I don't know what
What
they were
is this?
doing. And I was like, I don't like it. I'm
I
sorry.
don't like it.
I don't.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But I'll always like Westworld,
Yeah.
the film, and watch it. So we talked about that was futuristic movies that are now in the past. Great segment, Robert.